is Terry Bradshaw, quarterback, Pittsburgh Steelers.
It's 7:15. There's a new home run champion of all time, and it's Henry Aaron.
This is baseball.
It is the last day of May as we get ready to hit the summer, and nothing says summer more than Yankees Red Sox. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Past Our Prime. I'm Scott Johnston here with my other two hosts, Bill Mahoney and Mark Hoffman. And guys, what a cover this week. Lou Piniella sliding into Carlton Fisk, and all hell breaks out from 50 years ago between those two heated rivals. Bill, this was baseball the way we grew up and loved.
Yeah, it sure was. Sure was. I mean, my favorite part in the whole thing, other than I always liked brawls, was if you watch Bill Lee, our guest on our show, a past guest, just really mouthing off, just, rah, 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 rah. And Graig Nettles comes up and just clocks him. I mean, just takes him down. And obviously, and after the game, Lee had a terrible injury. So, hey, got hit, and then he got knocked out for a few weeks.
Yeah, like tore his shoulder or something like that.
Yeah, shoulder ligaments, and suffered a black eye. And there were also other injuries in that as well, which we'll get to.
Coming on to talk about the two cover guys, Fisk and Piniella, is a longtime broadcaster of baseball. He knows both these guys well, having played with Carlton Fisk and worked as a broadcaster with Piniella. I'm talking about a true psycho. No, not Mark, but Steve Psycho Lyons will be joining us in just a bit. Looking forward to that. But first, I love this by J.D. Reed. He wrote this thing on playful piece on what it imagines it looks like if locker room dynamics were flipped, with athletes suited up and notebook in hand descending on naked, exhausted sports writers after a long day's work. The writer clearly was a veteran of too many post-game scrums, conjures scenes of Phil Esposito asking Dave Anderson how he held up through the second period, while Dave Anderson was wearing no clothes. So it was a very interesting, fun little read there before the magazine really got going. And that leads me to this. What is the most awkward situation either of you have ever had? And this is such a strange question to ask, with a naked person in the locker room, because there are some guys in the locker room that, I mean, they are acting as if they are in their bathroom all by themselves. I mean, they are just naked as a jaybird, and they don't care if anybody knows it.
No, I can remember once, I used to do two things. One, I'll tell you the one that was really uncomfortable. We'd go up and we're going to interview Jeff Keppinger, who was a free agent signee of the White Sox back in the day. He never wanted to talk, but one day it was just, maybe 5 or 6 guys in the locker room, and he's standing in his locker. So I go, "Hey, Jeff, get a couple of words with you. I haven't talked to you all spring." He goes, "Sure thing," and just takes his pants off. And I'm like, he goes, "Yeah, let's go." And I actually don't think we did the interview. I said, I'll let you, do your business. I'm not joking. The second he said yes, he goes and just pulled down his pants, just standing there naked.
Maybe he was sending you a message. I don't know.
He might have been, but I just thought, man, you do your business.
Well, it's like with women, men have the habit of their eyes drifting down to look at a certain part of their anatomy, and women will say, "My eyes are up here."
Right.
Yes.
So with the guy there, it would be like, you have to have that same mentality. The eyes are up here. Do not
my
look
eyes
down.
never moved, man.
Yes.
When I saw the pants dropping, I thought, I'm not a flopping. I'm done. But the other one was, we used to go in the locker room, and we had a photographer. His name was Tom Gilmer, just a great guy and a great photographer. We all know him. But anytime I saw a player taking his pants off and bending over, I'd always go to Tom and go, "Hey, Tom, do me a favor. Go set it up next to, Santiago's locker." He'd go, "Sure thing." And he'd turn around. There'd be just a naked ass right in front of him. Each time I did it to him, for me, it just got funnier. Every time there was a naked guy, I'd go, "Yeah, hey, there's AJ over there, Tom. Just go over and just stand there. I'll be there in a couple minutes." And AJ be bent over. Tom be like, "What the hell?"
Oh, God, no.
Not again.
And 9 out of 10 times.
I don't think he ever didn't do it. I mean, this is on for 12 years. He never once said, "Hey, is there someone naked there?" No, okay. Oh, God.
9 out of 10 times it was Adam Dunn.
Oh, my God. Adam Dunn would walk around the locker room just naked.
Yeah.
I mean, just right at the beginning of the when the reporters come in, he would just walk around butt naked. Hey, everybody, are we going out tonight? What time? And I'd be, oh my God. And Adam Dunn, sadly, he was so big that your eyes were almost right. At least my eyes were almost right with his crotch area. So I had to look up all the time.
Yeah. I think
A
I
big
think what you
dude.
wanted to say instead of big was tall right there.
Thank
Yes.
you. Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Crazy. Mark, you got one?
Oh, I got so many. I'm trying to filter
Yeah.
them out. The classic was in the '80s. We had at Channel 2, we had a live camera in the Dodgers locker room after they clinched, I believe it was the pennant. And we called Pedro Guerrero over to do the interview. And for a brief moment, you see all of Pedro in his glory. Everything. And and then
Are you holding a bat?
and I did a Raider post game once, and I was interviewing someone, and the cameraman set up. So the cameraman should know better. So you have the athlete framed, but to the left is the entrance to the shower and the exit to the shower. So there are people coming in and out the whole time, and no one's saying boo. And some of that got on the air. I think very close to having heads roll on that one. I don't know why there weren't, but you've got to be really careful. And then this wasn't naked, but there was a sportscaster we both worked with. And one day at CBS, I went to the room that had all the tapes in, and I opened the door, and he's sitting on the floor in just his underwear doing bicycle kicks.
Yeah.
It freaked the hell out of me. His initials are BL, and that's as far as I'll go.
Yeah. He was a weird dude.
Don't say that. You don't know. It could be normal from where he's at.
Nope.
No, exactly. No, it's not.
Yeah.
No.
I got one little story here from a guy that used to work with us down in Arizona, Rory, good guy. He was probably 23, 24 years old, and he got his first job as a producer at I want to say the NBC affiliate in Phoenix. And he goes out to Cardinals, I want to say training camp, maybe it was practice, I don't know. And he gets gets a good interview with someone, and comes back and hands the tapes, and he shot it, he did the interview, the whole bit. He's focusing right on the guy he's asking the questions, and everything goes well. Hands the tapes off to the editor. Editor edits. Here's the bites I need, blah, blah, blah. Editor edits it. It goes to air. He's watching the interview as it hits the air, and he, for the first time, sees the guy behind the interview, completely frontal nudity on the air. And he's like, uh-oh.
And I guess, remember, Scott, I think the guy had a pipe.
Oh, the guy was,
He's like hung like a horse. Yeah.
I remember I wanted to see The Godfather when I was a kid so badly, and so my mom finally relented and took me to see The Godfather. And there's the scene where Michael gets married to the Italian lady when he's fleeing the country and he's in Italy, and the wedding night she takes her top down, and that's the first time I saw a topless woman. And my mom must have been thinking, "Oh, great choice here, really good choice."
Yeah. Well, your mom didn't get fired, but Rory did.
He did. But the way Rory is such a nice guy. And his little face when he was telling the story about how they told him to grab a camera, and he was so excited. And to see that when you're just staring at the playback monitor, there's some dude and he goes, and the guy's, hung, like bigger than anything. And there's and there's poor Rory in the booth going, okay, cut out of that.
Too funny. Too funny. Hey, before we get to scorecard, we still got something else to talk about. Movie talk, Mark, and some
yes,
big names in this one.
Yes, there's a movie out called Stay Hungry, and it's set in the South. Jeff Bridges is a star. He's the son of some rich dude who passes away, and he had owned this gym, sort of like a Gold's Gym, but he wants to actually tear the gym down to build high rises. It's in Birmingham, and there are all these characters in the gym and stuff like that. And one of the characters in the gym was a lifter by the name of Joe Santo, and he was played by Arnold Schwarzenegger. This was 1976, but this was kind of his first role, and he's not playing himself. He's playing this character, Joe Santo. Sally Field was also in the movie. R.G. Armstrong, who would later do Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger. But the reviewer didn't like the ending of the movie. But I thought Schwarzenegger did actually a really good job. I know he's playing a bodybuilder, but still. And I think Schwarzenegger won a Golden Globe. They had a character for Best Newcomer or Best Debut in a Motion Picture, even though it wasn't a debut. So that was the beginning. And I think that led to the documentary that they already shot. It was Stay Hungry might have been based a little bit on the documentary Pumping Iron, but and I can't remember which came first, which came second, but that documentary also really put Arnold in the forefront.
For sure. Yep. Pumping Iron is huge. Scorecard, Billy, Gary Gubner. Hello, Gubner.
Gary Gubner. Yes, he's a former shot put star and Olympic weightlifter. Well, this guy decided to take up running, but he did weigh around 250 pounds. But that pissed him off because since tiny distance runners, they blew past him regularly on the track. So he decided to start a petition to create weight divisions in running. Basically, the article comes down to if a giant oak tree looking man named Gary Gubner asks you to sign a petition, just sign it. And they do not have weight restrictions in running. So he didn't get anything passed.
Right. Mark, the Shreveport Caps.
They're actually the Shreveport Captains of the Texas League. And they want, you put your nickname on the cap, so like the A's have A's, the Sox have Sox. But if you shorten the Captains, it becomes Caps. So if you put caps on a cap, fans might start wondering why didn't they put shirts on a shirt or pants on a pants? So instead of caps, they settled for a plain old block S. That's wimpy, man. Go with caps, man.
Yeah,
you had the Washington Capitals. You had
why an S?
For Shreveport.
I know, but you would think you'd go C. Strange.
The Caps.
All right, I got one. Stan Bondelovich, who in more than 2 decades of coaching football at Swampscott High in Massachusetts, won almost 80% of his games, has some advice for young coaches as he resigned his post last week. Only take a job in a losing situation, he said. Build it into a winner and then leave. Once you start winning, people accept. Nothing else. I'll just do it someplace else, he says, because he's not giving up on coaching. The pressure here was getting to be too much. I was in a situation where I had to win 11 out of 10. Swampscott's where I lived for about 3 years in Massachusetts. My kids both went to school there, and you'll get a kick out of this, Mark. In the famous Brady Bunch episode where Cindy is mocked for having a lisp. A lisp. Yes, she had a lisp. At the very end of the show, Mike and Carol Brady are sitting there, and Mike says, "So you had a lisp too?" And she goes, "Oh yes," and it was much worse situation than Cindy's. And he goes, "How really? How come?" And she goes, "Because she didn't grow up in Swampscott, Massachusetts."
Oh. How fun was. Now I remember that Brady Bunch.
Yes, exactly.
Wow.
We saw all the Brady Bunches.
It's time for They Said It.
They said it. Bill, Abe Lemons.
Okay. Usually these are funny or quirky. This one is neither of those. The legendary Texas basketball coach on national recruiting said one of these days the NCAA might put in a rule that says you have to have at least one player a year on your team from your home state. Oh gosh, that's good. Sorry.
Yeah. I don't think
that gets right to the point,
Yeah.
I just can't stop laughing. Come on.
That's too good. Too good.
I'm laughing on the inside.
Try to follow that, you guys.
Yeah, Mark, go ahead and beat that with Bob Lutz.
I will. Bob Lutz, after losing to Guillermo Vilas in the World Championship tennis match, said, "I got tired, my ears started popping, the rubber came off my tennis shoes, I got a cramp, and I lost one of my contact lenses. Other than that, I was in great shape."
At least yours is good.
Yes.
Come on.
I'm not even going to attempt one.
I know exactly. Scott will be, and so, they went downtown to look for a job.
Yankee Doodle series was a dandy as we get right to our cover story. The Yankees, energized by Billy Martin's aggressive base running style and a roster built around speed rather than power, had jumped out to their best start since 1958, looking like a legitimate threat to dethrone the defending AL champion Red Sox in the Eastern Division. Boston arrived at Yankee Stadium reeling from a 10-game losing streak. So game one erupts in an all-out brawl when Lou Piniella collides with Carlton Fisk at the plate. Both benches clear. As we mentioned, Bill, the spaceman Bill Lee tears his shoulder, sidelined him for 6 weeks, but there were more injuries than just the spaceman.
Yeah, Carl Yastrzemski, he bruised his thigh. Lou Piniella hurt his finger. Mickey Rivers injured his little toe, and even the bat boy got hit by debris from fans. It's a bad day.
Yeah, this was one of those fights where, like, I don't even know really what happened. There's a collision at home, not a horrible one, and Fisk and Piniella immediately go at it, and the bench is clear, and then things kind of calm down. And you're seeing, the camera's on the scrum there, and then off camera is where Bill Lee is getting assaulted.
Yeah, he gets assaulted one on camera, then afterwards they get him again, but he was really mouthing off there.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that was who he was.
There's bad blood beforehand, and that's the incident that pushes it over the edge. So they were having these feelings, and that was like the last straw.
It did not go well for the Red Sox that day or even that season. You forget, they in 75, they had that incredible season. They go to a game 7, almost beat the Reds in that incredible World Series. And here in 76, basically the Yankees take claim to the AL East, which they would dominate for the next coming few years.
But we also have to mention that in that fight, and we had heard it, watching the replay of it, Mickey Rivers was like hitting people in the back of the head.
Yeah.
They announced what Ricky, Mickey Rivers going back just hitting people in the back of the head. I guess that's what he was doing, which isn't a good look in any type of fight.
Yeah.
And come on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this was back when the Yankees and the Red Sox really hated each other. Now it's just not the same as it was 50 years ago or even 25 years ago,
Yep.
Mark. Remember the Pedro thing?
Yeah, I think that was in the playoffs, and Don Zimmer came storming out of the dugout, and Pedro cold-cocked him.
Yeah.
He's a 72-year-old man coming out of the dugout. I think in his prime, Don Zimmer would have taken Pedro easily, one hand tied behind his back, because he was a bulldog. But when you're 72 years old, and you're attacking a guy much younger than you, more than half your age, it's like,
And you're a bit svelte or
right.
portly.
But that's not the worst decision in a fight that I've ever seen. The worst decision in a baseball fight I've ever seen was Dave Rozema, who was a pitcher with the Tigers. He was off to a great start in 1982. I think he pitched great in spring. He was 3-0. They were kind of using him as a reliever and a starter. And they played, I believe it was the Twins, and there's a big fight in the game, and Rozema decides to karate kick another player, like jump in the air and kick him with his feet and his cleat. Well, he missed, fell, and like tore ligaments in his knee. They had to carry him off on a stretcher. That kind of ruined his season and kind of his career. He was never the same after that. Yep. And the other trivia with Dave Rozema was that he and Kirk Gibson married twin sisters, and they were teammates.
Mm.
Yeah.
And he
now we're getting juicy.
Tried to karate kick her as well.
Yes.
The funny thing about the Pedro thing is, you can tell that he's like, I got this old man charging me, and he just grabs him by the head with both hands and kind of just pushes him to the ground or something.
Yeah.
And that
what Zimmer was thinking though. Because he was a bigger man, and you're going out and getting a guy that's in the prime of his life, great shape. I wonder if he ever had a regret, like midway to the mound, thought, man, I guess I better follow through.
Oh, That was in 2003, and then of course the Yankees win that playoff series on the Boone
Yeah.
walk-off home run in Game 7, and it would be a year later that the Red Sox
Yeah.
would finally end the curse.
And wasn't that the 3-0 they came back from in 04?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, that was great.
Someone who knew both Carlton Fisk and Lou Piniella, the two guys on the cover of this week's SI, is former major leaguer Steve Lyons, known for his all-out energy and one of those guys who got every bit of talent God gave him. Lyons spent 9 seasons in the big leagues, then transitioned to the broadcast booth where he worked for Fox Sports for over a decade, stops at KCAL in LA and Nesson in Boston. A baseball lifer, if you will. Steve Psycho Lyons, thank you for joining us today on Past Our Prime, Steve.
Anytime. I can hear the applause there in the background.
Let's start with the guys on the cover and Carlton Fisk. This is 1976, really the height of the Yankees-Sox rivalry, and Fisk seemed to always be right in the middle of it. We know all about the Game 6 heroics. We know he was a Hall of Famer, but what was he like as a teammate?
I love the guy. He was one of the more deliberate guys you'll ever see. You saw that in the way he played. Like if he had to go out and talk to the pitcher, he'd put his mask up on his helmet and he'd walk all the way to the mound. He'd say what he'd have to say. He'd walk all the way back. When you speak to him, he's very deliberate in his speech as well. But damn, what a great player he was. And what I found great was everybody knows that I played with Fisk, but they think that I played with him when we were with the Red Sox. I never did. I played with Carlton when I was with the White Sox and he was with the White Sox for 5 years. And, I was kind of a clubhouse cut up. I wasn't a very good player. I didn't get to play a lot. And Carlton didn't take crap from anybody, but he let me mess with him for some reason. I don't know why. I mean, he would come in for the first day of spring training and, we'd have already been there already for a day or two and he'd come walking in, people would start cheering, in jest. And I'd say, hey, Pudge, you going to change your number this year? And he goes, why would I change my number? I've been wearing this number for a while. I said, well, because you wore your age on your back last year. I thought you'd go to 73 this year. He would look at me. Now, if anyone else said that to him, he'd probably punch him out. But he'd just look at me and swear something and go sit down.
Yeah, we've all been around athletes all our life, and Fisk just seems like one of those guys who has an aura about him that's pretty much don't F with me. Like I picture him wearing eye black 24/7, but why do you think you were able to get away with giving him the razz when he was such an intimidating guy?
Yeah, I think he knew that, part of me being on the team was to provide a little comic relief in the clubhouse. It's a long season, and he certainly knew I wasn't serious. And he certainly knew that, I didn't think I was better than him in any way, shape, or form, So we just kind of had that kind of a relationship. And it started from day one. We just got along really well. There was the time with the White Sox where they made me be a third catcher, and he helped me a lot with that. I didn't want to be a third catcher. In fact, I had probably one of my better years the year before, and they told me if I didn't go down to instructional league and learn how to be a third catcher, that I might not even make the team next year. So I did it, and he helped, and we developed a pretty good relationship over the years.
Him being with the White Sox, and you played with him obviously the back end of his career, what kind of leader was he in the clubhouse? How did other players see him?
He was quiet for the most part. He didn't have to say too much, but he was one of the first guys ever that, after the game, he went upstairs to our weight room and worked out for about an hour after every game. And then what would happen would be the next day when we're all supposed to be there at whatever, I usually got there at about 1 or 2 o'clock, but you didn't have to be there until about 4. And Pudge would stroll in at about 6 for a 7:30 game, because they knew that he didn't have to show up early. He didn't have to take extra batting practice. He didn't even have to take batting practice if he didn't want to. And there wasn't one guy on our team that was like, hey, what the hell is up with that? Well, he's the captain, but he can show up whenever he wants. Everybody knew what the deal was with him. He worked harder than anyone else. He kind of made his own schedule, and not one person complained about it.
When you see Fisk, most people think of the Game 6 heroics. What kind of catcher, how great of a catcher was he?
He was a really great catcher with some funky bad mechanics. He used to swipe at balls that were down and away from him, exact opposite of the way you're supposed to do it. But he always caught it, and he always made it look good, and he never broke his thumb, because that's the tough part. When you put your thumb down, you got a chance of having that thing get snapped off if the guy's throwing a hard sinker. You asked about the leadership too. I mean, he provided leadership to the other team very many times. I'm sure you guys are familiar with the Deion Sanders incident at home plate. I mean, I was there for that, and I'm not sure that a lot of people really know the full story behind that. Do you want to go into that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Deion came to the plate, and he used to draw the dollar sign, which was cool. And I played with Deion in Atlanta too. I tell you what, he's a great teammate. He just didn't like the media too much. And he was a showboat, because that was part of his persona. But he popped the ball up, and he didn't run it out. And Fisk screamed at him, "Run the freaking ball out, run down the line." And he, made a right-hand turn and sat on the bench. And when he came up for his next at-bat, he looked at Pudge and he said, slavery's over.
Ooh.
And Pudge stood up, took his mask off, and got in his face and says, "What I had to say to you has nothing to do with slavery." I said, he said, don't make me that guy. You're one of the fastest guys in baseball, and you're a young player, and you're phenomenally talented. You should run out every ball to show off how fast you are every time you can. When you pop a ball up, you bust your ass down the line. And he put his mask back on and sat down again. Of course, by that time, the benches were emptying. We were all gathering around, but, he meant no disrespect. He was trying to teach a young player how to play the game the right way.
The other person on the magazine was Lou Piniella. And people remember Lou for his managerial, but he was really a good player too. Talk about the kind of player Lou was.
Was this the magazine cover where they got in a fight at home plate?
Yes, Lou is sliding into home plate and into Carlton Fisk. So I believe a melee ensued right after.
Yeah, I want to say, is it possible that's when Bill Lee got hurt and all that? When he blew his shoulder out in that?
There with Bill on the show. Yeah, he talked about
the Yankee Red Sox rivalries, they're tame in today's comparison from what they were back then, when you were raised to hate the Yankees if you wore a Red Sox uniform, and vice versa. And now the Red Sox Yankee rivalry is only any good if both teams are good, and both teams have gone through periods where they weren't so good, and the rivalry kind of faded a little bit. It's back a little bit better now. But when you talk about Piniella and what he was able to do on a Yankee team that was full of superstars, really, you look up and down that lineup, you got to be a damn good player if you're one of the guys written in there every night. And you're right. I think he gets more credit for managing, and he did a great job managing. I had a great time working with him as a broadcaster, and I just think sometimes his player numbers get overlooked just because of the teams he played on.
And then so he wins like 2 World Series with the Yankees as a player, but then he wins it managing the Reds in 1990. I mean, his managerial skills, he's 3 times manager of the year, but the guy is in the Hall of Fame for the Reds and the Mariners. What does that say about his managerial skills and his leadership ability?
Well, if you remember, what he did was he took crappy teams over and made them better. And that's hard to do, because I'm one of those guys that tends to think that the manager gets more credit than he deserves when the team plays well, and he gets way more blame when the team plays poorly. And I think even Lou would tell you, is like, hey, Sparky Anderson had one of the best lines I ever heard. He said, "If you give me good players, I'll be a good manager. If you don't give me good players, probably not." But Lou did take crappy situations and change the culture. And that's one thing that a manager can do to make a team better. Obviously, you got to evolve and get better players and find ways to win with what you've got and what you can add to that. But if you go in there and change the attitude of what's expected of you, I think that's what he was great at. Like Joe Torre. I don't think Joe Torre was a great X's and O's manager, and I was with him every day when he was with the Dodgers. And he was probably mailing it in by then anyway, but he was great at, I call it high-class babysitting. He kept the guys away from each other that didn't like each other. He motivated guys pretty well. And he was a great manager of personalities. And then he just let the guys go out and play. And I think that's kind of how Lou did it.
Is it possible, Steve, that Lou may have been a little bit misunderstood because we saw all those blow-ups and the arguments, and he would just lose his mind so often, it seemed. But tactically and his way of dealing with his players and stuff, he was a really good skipper.
No, I think we very much understood who he was with all those blowups, and I thought they were awesome. I mean, and that is a classic example of what you're talking about. That was Lou standing up for his players always, and Lou always wanted to be the guy that someone was mad at. He wanted to protect his players, keep them in the game, and then he would go out and cause the problems and get thrown out of the ball game to make sure that his team was in the ball game and continuing to play. Yeah, I mean, it was one I wish I got a chance to play for him. I never did. I got a chance to work with him, of course, but never got a chance to play for him. But he was fiery and showed up. He was a gamer. He was a gamer when he played, and he was a gamer when he was a manager. And I think that's a great attribute for a manager that very few guys have. And certainly the way the game's played today, when you basically have half the teams have a computer geek managing the team these days, not even a baseball guy. I mean, what kind of fire do they bring to it? And I'm not naming names right now, but we all know what we've seen lately. There's no more Lou Pinellas.
Well, ABS and instant replay and all that, they've taken that part of the game away from us. There's, you don't argue, you just point to your head, replay. We want a replay on that. So I miss when Lasorda and Billy Martin and those guys would go out there and, fire the team up, fire the crowd up. It was awesome.
Yeah, it's just not that much fun anymore. No more arguments. You can't run over a guy at plate. You can't take out a guy at second base. Who's playing this game these days?
Right. It's kind of funny. Do you think with Piniella and Fisk on the cover? I mean, they were similar in their way they approached the game. I remember the incident Piniella had when he was the Reds manager with Rob Dibble in the clubhouse. Kind of the same thing, I would think, that happened with Fisk and Sanders. Like Piniella there was a right way and a wrong way to play the game.
Yeah, and I think obviously we just talked about how he stands up for his players, but he will stand up to his players too if he feels like they're showing him up or not doing what they're supposed to do. And that Dibble situation was a crazy one, but it was, you can't disrespect the guy who's running the show, and it's a lot different back then than it is today. We show exuberance or disrespect or whatever you want to say, every time a guy comes to the plate. I'm getting used to it. I was kind of old school. I didn't want to see it, but if the game of baseball doesn't evolve and start, letting kids show their emotions, then, we are only going to have computer geeks and 90-year-old men watching it. So you kind of have to evolve with the times a little bit, but we had a term for that. But Piniella and Fisk were both red asses. They both would hang in there. They busted their tail playing the game. But if you push them over the limit, then you're going to see a different guy. And I know Piniella went into that little argument with Dibble thinking that he was going to get his clock cleaned, but it was something that he felt he had to do.
You talk about that just a little, Steve. So you're sitting in a dugout and you're watching the game. Manager goes out and he's on fire with the umpire. What is going through your mind? What are you thinking? Like, oh, here we go. Are you enjoying it or going, oh, what's this going on?
Yeah, we're laughing our asses off is what we're doing. It's funny. We know sometimes it's for show. And then for sometimes if it's a bad call, strike three on me and he comes out yelling and screaming, I'm happy that it did it because I felt like I was screwed at the plate there one time, and he's going to come out and let someone know, hey, you don't take the bat out of someone's hands right here in this situation. And that makes all the players on the team feel like he is going to stick up for us in every situation. And it's funny at the time, but we all know the background. We all know why it's happening. And you're right. We miss all that. We don't get to see that anymore. We don't see it because they don't let anybody argue anymore because a computer or a camera or something else is now calling the game. I love the fact that the umpires, baseball taught me adversity. Baseball taught me when I got knocked down to stand back up again and be a man. Nothing else. I don't know anything else out there in my life that would have done that. I remember when I was 11 years old, I came home from a game and I said, Dad, we would have won today's game, but the umpires beat us. And my dad looked at me and he said, what? And I was standing with two of my buddies on the team. He said, how many hits did you have today? I said, I was 2 for 4. I said, how about Johnny over there? He was 1 for 4. How about Bobby? He was 1 for 3. I said, well, my dad says, hey, there's a bunch of at-bats right there where you didn't get any hits. I can tell you this right now, if you were ahead 8-2, not one thing an umpire can ever do in that game can ever beat you. So remember this when you look in the mirror. An umpire, may make some bad calls against you. He may make it a little tougher on you if you think that, you should have won the game, but they will never, ever beat you. There's always something that you could have done that will overcome any bad calls that they make. So put that in your brain right now and never think about that an umpire will ever beat you again. And I did. And I was a big baby when I played because I was a marginal player. So I needed every close call to go my way. So I cried about it when it didn't. And the biggest regret of my career is that I couldn't control my emotions. I'd run down the first base line if I hit a weak ground ball in the third out and slam my hat down and bounce and make the first base coach go pick it up, which was so disrespectful. You talk about disrespect. I should have had a couple first base coaches that said, hey, screw you. You go pick up your helmet. I'm going back to the bench. You go play right field or wherever you're playing. And my dad called me one time and he said, you're not very good. And he said, but even if you were good, you would get 600 at bats. And if you were really good, you'd get 180 hits. That leaves a ton of at bats where you're not going to get a hit. Are you going to throw your bat and throw your helmet on every one of them? And it made me feel bad, but I could never get over the emotion of just being so pissed when things didn't go my way. Since I got done playing, I'm the greatest proponent of umpires there is. I think they do a phenomenal job. Sure, they're wrong a bunch of times. Think how tough the job is. But all this, tapping my hat and replays, I knew when they put replay in to do fair and foul balls. I was working at Fox and I said, this is the biggest mistake they're making because this is going to open a huge can of worms that we're not going to be able to stop.
So Steve, your dad was a motivational speaker?
My dad was probably my best coach that I ever had, even when I got to the point when I was playing big league baseball. The only thing he did wrong was he told me that I had to pull the ball. I hit left-hand. He brought me up to be a left-handed hitter because he said, you're going to face more right-handed pitching than left. And he wanted me to pull the ball, get out front, pull the ball. That was his only mistake, because if I was teaching kids today, I'd say, if you're a left-handed hitter, hit line drives over the shortstop's head. Wait, hit it to left field. And then as you get bigger and stronger, you'll hit harder balls that way. And then when you get fooled, you'll pull it and you'll keep the ball in the field. Sometimes I'd see the best pitch I was ever going to see and yank it foul. I should have hit it out of the park, but I hit it foul because I was too far out in front. And then because of that, I couldn't sit back on a breaking ball. And so I'd screw myself into the ground when anything wrinkled.
It's funny, Scott just texted. Yeah, that was Tony Gwynn wasn't so bad doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. Good.
But Steve, you look at yourself and you look back at the player you were when you played, and you say about emotion, why was it so, forget the marginal player, what is it about the emotion that got the best of you in those times?
Well, it's weird because I absolutely know that the emotion I had made me as good a player as I could be. But the flip side of that was it also made me look bad when I didn't play well. And I guess I'll take the trade-off. I got 9 years in the big leagues. I should have been selling women's shoes somewhere. I was the best player that I could be. I got more out of my talent than I should have. And that was because I was a guy that refused to lose to you, even though I know you're better. And I just said the same thing to teams that I was on. When I played 5 years on the White Sox, we stunk. Actually, I take that back. We didn't stink. We just didn't have the horses to win. We went out there and busted our tails every night. We probably had 9,000 fans a night, but they knew they were the same 9,000, and they cheered us, even though they knew we were going to lose, because they watched us bust our tails. We just didn't have enough to win. And I kind of challenged all our guys all the time. Do everything you can do to be as good as you can be every night, because there are nights where you will win.
You may not have been the best player, but I think you're the most memorable player. And I'll go back to 1990 for that. Won in April they had the exhibition game against the Cubs, and they let you play 9 positions. Tell me about that and how that all came about.
Well, I had asked Jeff Torborg to do it. He was our manager, and Jeff, was just a really respectful man, and he very much worried about the integrity of the game. And so he told me that I could do it if we ever clinched the division. After that, I said, Jeff, we're not that good, and we're not going to get that much better while I'm around. And I said, that's never going to happen. So after my 89 season, again, I had a pretty good year for a guy who, I think I played in 141 games, and, I was in the top 5 on a lot of our offensive categories, even though I shouldn't have been probably. And then when I came back for 1990, I said, you got to go learn how to catch. You might not make the team. And all of a sudden I'm not playing at all. And I thought, I was going to be the utility player. I thought I'd still get in there every once in a while. And I wasn't playing. So Jeff came to me and said, hey, the Crosstown Classic against the Cubs, how about we do the all 9 in that one? I'm like, great. And so that's how that came about. And I was grateful to Jeff that he let me do it. People, if they really read the fine print, they'll realize that I did it in a game that didn't really count. But it didn't count. It counted to me. I can tell you that. Because at that time, only 2 other players had ever done it. And that was Cesar Tovar and Campy Campaneris. And that was like back in the 60s. And I had the ability to do it. So I wanted to show that off. It was my opportunity to show some of my skills that I didn't get to show on an everyday basis. And gets emotional for me sometimes, but remembering those kind of opportunities that I got that I wouldn't have otherwise got, and the White Sox were part of it because they made me go down and learn how to catch. College coach was part of it because he took an outfielder who was afraid of ground balls and he turned me into a shortstop for my junior season. And so, I got to be a well-rounded player. And I think I played 9 years in the big leagues because I could catch the ball, because I sure as hell couldn't hit it.
So, just a quick follow-up on that before I get to my second question. Out of those 9 positions, was catcher the hardest, or was there another position that was the hardest for you?
Catcher's by far the hardest. It's the hardest on the field. Number 2 is shortstop. I was 6'3", 205 when I played. I'm 6'3", 203 right now. So basically, I'm probably 6'2", 205. But for me to be shortstop, I was tall. Cal Ripken did it, and I was quick on my feet, but I wasn't the best. I was a good fielder, but I wasn't an excellent fielder. So if someone got hurt and you had to play me at short for 2 weeks, I may cost you a game or 2 with an error at the wrong time. The rest of the positions on the field, I felt like I was as good or better than the guy who was playing in front of me because he was a better hitter than I was. But catching, I remember I went down with me and Pat Keaty, went down to Instructional League to learn how to catch. We both stopped at a Spencer's gift store and we bought rabbit's feet and we hung them on our shin guards because we were so scared of getting hurt back there. We were hoping the rabbit's feet would bring us good luck. Foul balls off your collarbone. People don't respect the abuse that catchers take. And then they're the first hitter in the next inning. Guy just takes a foul tip off his collarbone. Next one splits his finger. And now he's the next hitter. Nobody says anything about that. It's amazing what those guys do.
That rabbit's foot is dating.
Yeah.
I used to have those all the time.
Yeah, exactly. People don't even know what they are now.
No, they don't. They think it's a real rabbit's foot. No, it's not.
I'm going to get calls from PETA.
But it's interesting that, so you do that 9-inning all position game. And then in July that same year, 1990, is the infamous game in Detroit where you pull your pants down. And I don't even think you were thinking about it when you did it because you got dirt inside of it. But explain what happened there.
I needed a date. You
had a few.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Same thing. I bunted the ball and they actually made a really good defensive play on it. Usually when you bunt to that side, you're hoping that the pitcher will take like one step towards the ball, thinking that he can get it. But I bunted it a little bit hard that time. So Petrie ran straight to first base. Now it's hard to beat the pitcher to first base if he goes right there. If he takes one step thinking he can catch it, now I'm safe. I know I'll beat him there. But he went straight to first. They made the play. They got it to him. I think I was out. If they didn't play, I was probably out. But they called me safe. Cecil Fielder's the first baseman. Dan Petrie's the pitcher. Dan Evans was the umpire. And they're, jawing at each other with some colorful language. And while that was going on, the dirt was running down the inside of my pants. And I just kind of was in tune to what they were talking about, forgetting that I was standing on first base. And I just pulled the pants down to get the dirt out, because that's no fun. Anyone who's ever slid head first, they know there's dirt in there. Half the time you're out, you run down the dugout steps, you pull your pants down to get that dirt out. You're not playing the rest of the night with that dirt in your pants.
At least you had something underneath, though.
I did have sliding shorts. It was so funny. The next guy bounced into a force out, and when I came running back into the dugout, that's crappy dugouts in Detroit, we used to call it the submarine. Like, women were throwing dollar bills and money on the beer.
That's fantastic. That's an all-timer. And, I tried to get a date by taking my pants off like that, but the police got involved, and it was not good. So
I did 32 radio shows the next morning and 7 live newscasts from Detroit TV the next night before the game. Melito Perez had thrown a no-hitter. It was a rain-shortened, like 7-inning rain-shortened no-hitter against the Yankees 5 days earlier. I don't think 3 reporters talked to him. Excuse of what's important in this game.
Yes.
Take your pants off, you're on.
Yeah. You got to do.
We're talking baseball here on Past Our Prime with former Major Leaguer and longtime broadcaster Steve Lyons, one of the game's great storytellers, and as they say, a true psycho, which is, I believe, you got the nickname. Is it true, Steve, from that night?
No, not that night. I believe me, I got the nickname in Double-A.
Oh, good. You really earned it then.
Who I was playing with, the guy who gave me the nickname was Mark Sullivan. And Mark was a backup catcher with the Red Sox, ended up with Texas Rangers, was a really good player, and should have been a career backup catcher for probably 15 years. But if you'll remember, back in those days, his father owned the Red Sox, Haywood Sullivan. So there was the whole nepotism thing, and you don't belong here. Mark's such a great guy. And as I said, he was a good player, but it was always the pressure of that. And believe me, Mark had a bigger temper than I did. But I think one night I had struck out for the 3rd time. I threw my helmet down, threw my bat down. I was at the end of the bench swearing at myself. And Sully looks down there and he goes, "Man, that dude's a real psycho."
I love the fact that you're 25, 30 years old and you're known as a psycho, but I've always had this kind of fantasy of you like being at a parent-teacher conference and you telling the teacher, "Yeah, my name is Psycho." Has the nickname ever come in handy outside of the sporting world?
Yeah, my nickname's Psycho, and don't touch my stuff.
Yes.
Sometimes
Simmer down.
Thank you, Francis.
Yeah. Cheers for our newest and bestest friend, our new big toe, Sergeant.
That's right.
Now, sometimes I've never really worked on it enough to spit it out good, but like sometimes I'll say, "Hey, where did Psycho come from?" And sometimes I'll blurt out where like, "Hey, when I was 8 years old, I killed the family next door to me, man. But I paid my debt to society, and they're looking at me funny." So that usually doesn't work out that well.
Getting back to Carlton Fisk here for just a moment. Like I said, he had this way about him. Did he ever let his guard down? Could he be funny? Could he be one of the guys and just hang out? Is there any kind of story that you can relate to us that tells us of a different side of him?
I think in private with the people that he trusted and knew, yeah, he was a funny guy. He contributed to conversations. As I said, when he would go into a story, he gets very, very deliberate. And so it takes a while to tell the story, but you're listening to what he has to say because it is him. But, otherwise pretty private and pretty intense. He doesn't let his guard down that often, but in the clubhouse, he was fine. And he'd crack a joke every once in a while. And like when I would get on him, he'd snap back at me with something stupid like, "Hey, hit a ball out of the infield every once in a while and then pop off," and then everyone would be laughing at him instead of what I said.
Steve, you seem to have that type of personality, obviously, knowing you and you saying it, that when you're in the clubhouse, no one, everyone's a victim if they want to be. Did you ever do with Fisk and the home run, sort of make fun of that with him, or did he ever talk to you about that?
No, nobody really said a whole lot about that. Obviously, we were in a different organization. He did it for the Red Sox. It might have come up a lot more often had we been playing for the Red Sox at the time. But, we all see that clip. How many times? We probably see that clip 10 times a year. Even still, especially on the date when it comes up, we're going to see it. Sometimes you're sifting through your IG account or whatever, and you'll see it. It's iconic, and they had the camera and the scoreboard there. You're supposed to be there and all that. It was just, what a fantastic moment in sports. But yeah, he didn't talk a whole lot about it. And I've seen him lately. I see him almost every year. I'll go back to Boston and watch a few games. And he comes back as one of the legends, and he goes up to a legend suite and he tells stories up there and talks to people. And I come in, and usually the last 2 times I went in to see him, I was with 2 friends of mine that said I would die if I got a chance to meet him. I'm like, let's go. He doesn't care. I'll take you right in there with me. And I go into that booth, and I know everybody that runs the legend suite there, and they're like, yeah, come on in. And I'll see him, and he'll be talking or something, and he'll turn around and he'll see me, and he's so quick. I mean, we haven't really spent a lot of time together for a number of years, but as soon as he sees me, he'll be like, who let you in? Like he knows right away. And he's so gracious with the guys. He takes pictures with the guys that I bring in. None of us are supposed to be there. And he takes pictures, signs balls, it's awesome. And so, yeah, he's that kind of guy. He's not someone that you ever walk up on and he's going to be a jerk.
Now, going back to the beginning of your career, you're with the Red Sox, starting with them. You get to play center field, and you look to your right, there's Jim Rice. You look to your left, there's Dwight Evans. What's that feeling like out there?
It was pretty amazing. When I made the team in 1985, it was me, Mark Sullivan, and Dave Sachs, Steve Sachs's brother. We were the only 3 rookies on the team. And I think they sent Dave down fairly quickly. And the game is so different now. I was on the team out of spring training. I made my first start in center field. I made my first start period on Memorial Day. Now think about that. That's wow. 2 months into the season. I sat on my ass for 2 months. Tony Armas was our regular center fielder. So if we'd have a rain delay, he might say 6th inning, I'm not going back out there. I go play center field. I accidentally got a few at bats, but I never made a start until Memorial Day of 1985. And that was because Tony then hurt his back. Then I played virtually every day after that. And it's funny because when you talk about playing center field, I fashioned myself a pretty damn good center fielder. So I wanted to play shallow because I knew Bruce Hurst and Oil Can Boyd and Roger Clemens, if they gave up a jam shot, they wanted someone to catch it. They wanted someone to come in and catch it. They didn't want that ball dropping in front of anybody. On the balls that get hit over my head, that's the pitcher's fault. The ball gets rifled off the wall. I'm probably not catching that anyway. You see how these guys jump over the wall and catch balls? That's because they're standing next to the warning track before the ball gets hit. I think at one time in my life I had a chance to rob a home run because I'm not back there. So, and it's funny who you mentioned because Evans was getting a little bit older. He had the reputation of having such a great arm. He played deeper. So when you say look to my left, it was more like look way over there to my left because he was way. And then Jimmy was, all due respect, wasn't a great fielding left fielder, and so he was like leaning up against the monster most of the time. So I had to look back like that to see him there. So, but it was, think about it. I had Buckner at first, Barrett at second, Hoffey at short, Boggs at third, Getty behind the plate. The pitching staff that we had, the 86 Red Sox team should have won the World Series. I would not have been a part of it because I got traded that year, but that was a team. Very, very rarely do you get to play on a team where when you lose, you think it's your fault. And we would come into the clubhouse and guys would be mad and someone would say, someone's got to pay tomorrow night. Someone pays. And then the next night we go out and beat your brains in 10-1, It was that kind of team. And you don't get to play on teams like that very often.
So after your baseball career, you had a pretty successful career in the broadcast booth, and you got to work for the Dodgers for many years. What was it like, even though I don't think you worked with Vinny, but you got to be around Vinny? What was it like just being around Vin Scully?
Legend, legend. One of the greatest voices in all of sports. Forget just baseball. And it is weird. I do tell people that I was the last person ever to work with Vin, and I'll let you think about that for a minute. I'll get back to it when I talk just in general about Vin. Yeah, so I would do about the 45 games a year that he didn't do. He didn't like to go east on the road. So me and a guy named Eric Collins, who's now the basketball voice and has been for a long time, of Carolina. Who's the Carolina team? NBA. What's
the Charlotte Hornets?
Yeah.
Charlotte Hornets. Yes. Sorry. Great guy. He and I did 45 games a year in the booth. And I remember when I first got there, and the first couple games I did, there were guys that worked in the booth that said, "Hey, now don't try to be Vin, because no one else can be Vin." And I'm like, "I got it. I'm just going to do the game the way I do it." And then 2 games into that, they'd be like, "Vin wouldn't do it that way." What do you want me to do then? So, but you would hear some stories, occasionally sit close enough to him in the lunchroom, before the game, and you could hear what he was talking about. I tried to stay out of his way. He's such a cordial, nice man, but I felt I did this even with players on the field. If I didn't have anything specific that I needed to talk to the guy about, I leave him alone. But so if you saw me waiting for you, I had a reason to be there. But we certainly talked, and we were on flights together and all that. Just a beautiful man, just fantastic person, and a legend of the game, no question about it. And now I'll tell you why I was the last person to work with him. Kevin Costner did a movie called For Love of the Game.
Yep.
He and I were the announcers, and
Yep.
Vin himself, but by himself, of course, for at least the last 30 years of his career. And the only other cool thing about that is, it's not cool because Vin got sick, but one opening day in Dodger Stadium, Vin got a really bad cold, really sick, and couldn't do the opening day broadcast. So me and Charlie Steiner did it. So if you look at every opening day for the Dodgers for like 67 years, Vince Scully, Steve Lyons, Charlie Steiner, Vince Scully. So I'm there somewhere,
But that's really funny that you brought up For Love the Game, because
questions fly, lightning strikes his answers try, buzzers ring, chaos in the air.
and I was going to ask you about working with Vin in a fake game. Do you prepare for that differently, or it's just scripted lines because it's not an ad-lib?
Nothing was scripted. What they did is they had shot all the baseball before. They shot all the scenes in baseball. And it's weird. They built a Yankee Stadium booth. I mean, it was 100% exactly like the Yankee Stadium booth of the time, right down to like cigarette burns in the formica of the thing. But then they shot us so close, we could have been sitting right now where I am. It wouldn't have mattered because there weren't any real long shots of us or anything. But how much money they spent recreating the booth in Yankee Stadium was unbelievable. So what they did is they put a TV up in front of us and they said, what we need you guys to know is the relationships between the players. The one black outfielder used to play with Billy Chappell, and he got traded to the Yankees. And they loved each other. You got to know that. You have to understand what that's about. And other than that, we're going to show you the game. Call it. And I'm like, cool. So we called the game, and I mean, I knew this was going to happen, but you'd hear Vin talk, he talked, and then right about when I was about to say something, they'd fade back to the movie, and movie. So I didn't, I talked a lot more than what was shown. I'm happy with my part, and but I mean the one line, and I'll get it wrong because it's been so long since I heard it. If you can remember, it's like maybe Billy Chappell in that sore right arm can push the October sky back up into the sky for just one more pitch. It was poetry. And it was off the cuff. He didn't go home and write that. He didn't know what he was going to see. We didn't know what we were going to see. We just called what it was.
Right.
And I'm looking at him over there like that. I was like, I should just go now. No wonder he works by himself,
So here's your trivia question. And ironically, even though I never lived in Detroit, I grew up a Tigers fan because I had an aunt that brainwashed me. So getting to see a fictitious Tiger pitcher throw a perfect game is like, whoa. But true or false? A lot of good actors in that movie, including J.K. Simmons, who plays the manager of the Tigers in the movie. True or false? J.K. Simmons is actually a lifelong Tigers fan.
I'm going true.
That is absolutely correct.
Nice. Why?
Because he grew up in Detroit. And
Oh, he must have lobbied for that job, man.
yeah, and what's funny is I used to see him across from CBS at this like little restaurant with his family, and he'd have that Tigers cap on. I don't know if he got it from the movie or not, but he had it all. He wore it all the time.
I believe, and I could be wrong about this. Did he not win an Oscar for the drum?
Yes, he did.
Whiplash.
He did. Yeah, for Whiplash.
Great movie.
Right.
He was good in that. You know what I liked him in? Juno.
Oh yeah, he was the
Yes,
dad.
as the father. Yeah, yeah.
He's great in everything.
Yeah, he is.
What is one of the insurance commercials too, right?
Yeah, oh well,
We
he's
are
made a
was it
fortune off of
farmers?
that.
Which-
So
Oh yeah.
yeah, but though, hey, really quick, this bonus question because I get really quick. Are you true or false? You are the only player to have ever pulled their pants down during the middle of a game.
Oh, that's a good one.
I will say on my own, true, but I believe. Oh yeah, because those players. I know there was a guy in that was trying to climb the outfield in New York at the Mets, the old Shea Stadium, and he was trying to, and the security guys pulled his shorts down because they were trying to grab him off the wall. I'm going to say true, but I think it's false because I think you got a better answer for me.
I do. It was remember he was with the A's at the time, Sergio Romo, and they wanted to check him out, so he pulled his pants down right in front of the umpires. Check me out, make sure I don't have any foreign substance on me.
I liked him. I liked Sergio Romo.
Yeah. Another psycho.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, Mark, I was thinking about the perfect game by a Tigers pitcher.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
good thing they did it in a movie because Armando Galarraga got screwed
Yes.
out of one.
Yes, he
He
did.
did.
Yes.
But
Which would have been overturned on replay.
Yep.
sure would have, and that's exactly the reason why I hate replay.
Right.
Listen,
Though,
Jim Joyce was the umpire.
right.
Great umpire. You see the scene the next day at home plate.
Right. Right.
I mean, he felt so bad,
Mm-hmm.
and Galarraga handled it like a champ.
Right.
And of course, he was back in AAA like a week later.
So, Steve, obviously, 9 years in the big leagues. Absolutely awesome. I mean, not many people can say that. But was there one player that's going to make you think? Was there one player that when you were on the field or you saw him play and you went, that dude is just different?
Bo Jackson. Today it would be Ohtani, I guess. There was, I mean, I played in a tremendous era of fantastic players. You know, 85 to 93. Rick Henderson was unbelievable. You know, I'll throw a name out there too, which I just respected so much because he was such a really great center fielder, Devon White.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he hit a home. He was playing for Toronto, I think, and he hit a home run against us. And I was playing third base for the White Sox, and he ran past me. And I tried to look at the strides, his footprints in the dirt. His strides were like 15 feet apart. I'm like, no wonder this guy can run everything down. And he was like a modified jog running around the bases after hitting his home run. He just had these long strides. He was so graceful. You know, you talk about, you know, center fielders from my era, Gary Pettis and that. But yeah, just guys that were just so pure. Guys, I mean, Boggs was the best hitter I ever saw in my life. You know, he fell out of bed getting 2 or 3 hits. Bill Buckner, for me, was one of the guys that was one of the most determined players ever. Should be in the Hall of Fame. What I watched him do in order to get on the field, the treatment on his ankles. And here's a guy that used to be able to fly. When he was with the Dodgers, he was stealing bases right and left. And then his ankles got so bad he could barely walk, but he could still play and he could still hit. Yeah, guys like that. You know, 2 of my best friends when I was with the White Sox were Jack McDowell and Robin Ventura. Jack had a pretty good career as a pitcher. Robin, pretty damn good player. Robin went through an 0 for 42, never saw him throw his bat once. I kept on going into Torborg saying, hey, yeah, maybe a day off. Maybe I go play third base today. I got nothing. Nope.
You know, Steve, we've worked spring training with a lot of the teams for many years, White Sox for over 20 years. So we got to know Robin Ventura. Class act.
Yeah,
But the
great.
guy before him, you played with as well, and he was a more off the wall, which is Ozzie Guillen. What was he like? Because I know what he was like as a manager because we dealt with him every day. He was really, really honest.
Yeah. Well, Ozzy and I went through periods of time where we didn't get along very well because we were kind of too much the same. We were too both, we both had something to say all the time and shut up or what, But I thought I did the smartest thing when I was playing second base. I opened the season one year as the everyday second baseman, but Ozzy was so creative as a shortstop. He wasn't like, and I don't know if Latin players are just flashier. He wasn't, Glenn Hoffman, who would catch a ball at short, took a drop step and throw it to you right overhand. Ozzy's throwing from behind his back and stuff. Look, I couldn't see it. So I went to my infield coach and I said, look, I need help here, but I don't think Ozzy's not going to work on it with me if I say, hey, I said, so you need to go to Ozzy and tell him that my footwork is terrible at second base. And so he needs to take more ground balls together with me, like come early and take ground balls, because I needed to find where the ball was coming from. I couldn't see it. I needed to be able to turn double plays. And if I don't know where the ball is coming from, you're in a little bit of trouble. So this guy Ozzy was amazing. And every once in a while we butt heads, but he's if you ask him today, I think he'd say the same thing, but he'd say, we're totally cool. I loved it when he was managing there. He was a phenomenal player, great defensive shortstop, and he hit the ball. And he was this big. I mean, this big. You could blow him over.
And he gave the greatest sound bites in the world, Steve.
Oh, yeah, because
he did not made. We sat in times with him going, "Oh, did he really say that?"
Mhm.
Ozzy had no governor.
Yeah, and I loved it too. He played hard, man. Showed up every day.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And he demanded that everybody fuck us. Hey, Steve, I saw you, when you talked about Torborg and you mentioned Ozzy, and you can just see that you light up when you talk about all these people, 50 years of your life, in the end, when you look back, it's the relationships, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the guys. It is. It's baseball's beautiful, and it's been very, very good to me. Whatever you say. My entire career has been built around the game in some way, shape, or form, but when you get right down to it, it's the guys that you play with in the clubhouse. It's those guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Steve Lyons, 9 years in the bigs, a baseball lifer. And all I could think of this whole time is I would have loved to seen a guy named Psycho selling women's shoes.
Yes.
Oh,
Al Bundy
at Kenny's shoe store when my senior year in high school.
Nice. Steve, thanks for your time today, buddy. Really enjoyed getting to meet you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Enjoy.
Please come back again.
Oh, I'll come back anytime.
Rookie cards of baseball, basketball, and football stars are iconic pieces of American history, and they have been outstanding investments over the last 50 years. Now, key issues of Sports Illustrated, professionally graded and encapsulated by CGC, have emerged as an exciting alternative to trading cards. ThePit.com is the leading online exchange for investment-grade sports magazines. General Manager Mark Humphreys offers Sports Illustrated first cover editions featuring stars like Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Michael Jordan, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Derek Jeter, Ken Griffey Jr., and so many more. Mark Humphreys is the CEO of ThePit.com and an expert in the field of collectibles. And Mark, this one is one that will appeal to a lot of people. The Red Sox and Yankees at the height of their rivalry, Carlton Fisk and Thurman Munson on a brilliant cover.
So I thought it was Thurman Munson also. And I wanted it to be Thurman Munson because that would be perfect. But it's actually Lou Piniella. So Thurman Munson was number 15.
Right.
And Piniella was number 14. And I stumbled upon that fact. You can't see his face, of course. And it would be great if we had the two finest American League catchers of their era connecting at home plate. That's not the case. But what we do have is a fabulously composed action photo where you've got the umpire and Fisk and Piniella, their heads all roughly in a line, collision at home plate. And Fisk is the one who looks heroic here, but I don't think he actually has the ball in his hand. And since the point that the cover is making is that the Yanks are speeding and the Red Sox are sputtering, I guess Piniella is scoring here, in fact. The cover photograph is by Neil Leifer, one of the two most famous Sports Illustrated photographers with an extremely long and distinguished history at Sports Illustrated, and most noted for his shots of Muhammad Ali in the mid 1960s against Sonny Liston and others. I was surprised that only one of these has been graded by CGC, graded and encapsulated for magazine collectors. That one issue is graded 8.0. Probably less collectible because even though the Yankees are scoring a run here, they whiffed, I believe, against the Reds. I think they were swept in the 1976 World Series by the Big Red Machine, and so it's only a semi-pleasant memory, I suppose, for Yankees fans, defeating the Red Sox but not capturing a World Series title. That would have to wait until the following 2 years.
Only thepit.com offers competitive buy now and sell now quotes on graded magazines online, as well as many of the most popular modern PSA graded rookie cards, including Shohei Ohtani, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Nikola Jokic, and Steph Curry. Trade sports stars like stocks at thepit.com. Steve said, "So sorry, but I gotta run." Steve Williams dominated the Martin Luther King Games in Atlanta, tying the world record with a 9.9 in the 100 meters and following it with a 19.9 in the 200. This guy was one of the best racers of his time, Bill, but come Olympic time, what happened?
He just couldn't stay healthy. I mean, he was one of the brightest Olympic hopes coming in, and just couldn't get his health together. He suffered injuries at the Olympic trials, ruining his 76 Olympic hopes. He tried to get an 80 and 84, still couldn't get back on the track, injuries, never made an Olympic team. So sometimes when you look back at these SIs and you see a guy like Steve Williams and go, man, that guy's going to dominate at the time. And now you look back and you think, man, the poor guy just couldn't stay healthy.
Yeah, and it was a deep field, this one in Atlanta, Mark. In fact, some big names didn't come anywhere close to beating Steve Williams.
Well, the thing that sticks in my mind is Houston McTeer, who has had, there's so much hype around this guy. And I think he really finished 7th in this race. And he's one of those guys that, people like do these unfair hypes of people and like make them seem godly, and then they have to try to live up to them and stuff. And I believe he was 19 years older in this race.
Yeah.
So you're trying to live up to all these expectations, and it's just it's hard to do.
Williams was hoping to win not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 gold medals at Montreal, the 100, the 200, and both relays. And he was asked at dinner if he'd take a ride with a friend who'd recently been in 2 car accidents. He said, God and me are not going to meet until after I've won a gold medal. So it really was. I mean, in the world of track and field, you're basically judged on how you do in the Olympics. And he never even got that opportunity. So feel bad.
All because of muscle pulls in his legs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It took Shorter a little longer. Frank Shorter won the U.S. Olympic marathon trial in Eugene in a time of 2 hours, 11 minutes, 51 seconds. nearly 4 minutes faster than his time on the same course in 1972, describing it as the easiest race he'd ever run. And Bill, guys like Bill Rogers and Don Cardone had no chance.
No, Bill Rogers said he joked about retiring at mile 24. And Don Cardone went one step further. He said, I'm done. He jumped into the steeplechase pit because he said he didn't know what else to do because he couldn't catch him.
Yeah, Shorter was just a man on a mission.
One of our guests again.
One of our past guests, really smart guy. Wasn't he the one, Mark, that was going to be a doctor?
Yeah, and he was in New Mexico. I think he had started medical school there, and we had him on the show, and he was talking about all those areas in New Mexico that I knew that most people don't know.
That's not a great place to be running, I wouldn't think.
Well, no, there's not a lot of traffic and stuff. It's not like LA. You don't have to worry about getting knocked over by a car.
No, but it's hot.
Yeah, but you know what? It depends what areas of New Mexico, and it depends what time you run. I mean, if it's super hot, you probably get up and run at 6 in the morning, you know?
Well, who's
Yeah,
doing
Mark,
that?
can't
I'm
you
not
just run on the
doing that.
15 out there? I know you gave us some directions a while ago about the place.
Yeah.
No, that's to get to Idaho. If you want to go to Idaho, take the 15 all the way.
Oh, that's right.
Okay, good.
But if you
Good,
want to
good.
go to New Mexico, you take the 15 to the
Yes.
40, and then you cut the 40 over.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah. So what is he thinking?
He's an idiot.
He needed you as his map guy.
Oh, to be young and 200 pounds, with Muhammad Ali aging, Joe Frazier fading, and George Foreman's star dimming. The boxing world was desperately hunting for the next great young heavyweight. There's a bunch of challengers, Bill, but who was the biggest up-and-comer?
Larry Holmes, 26 years old, ranked 8th in Ring Magazine. He was 6'3", 210 pounds. And I think we all know what he did in his boxing career, don't we, Mark and Scott?
He
Yeah.
dominated the division for, gosh, a long,
How long was
time.
And you know what was interesting about Holmes? He wasn't a big knockout fighter. He kind of just, outpointed you a lot of the times, just a smart boxer.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the last guy he's the last guy that Muhammad Ali fought.
Yep, and he felt so sorry for Ali in the fight. He took it easy on him.
Yeah.
I think they were sparring partners for a long time too when
Yep.
he was younger. And he was kind of like, you just felt like he was looking at the ref like, you going to stop this, and he's just pummeling the former great.
Yeah.
And then fast forward to like 86 or something.
Yeah.
He's in the ring at the end of his career fighting a young guy by the name of Mike Tyson, and that goes about as well as you'd expect.
It was like an overhand right, and that was it.
Yeah.
That was when Tyson was at his best.
Yeah.
But you think about it. Tyson stops Larry Holmes, flattens him, but he can't beat Jake Paul.
40 years
I know
later.
it's 20 years later, Come on.
Yeah, I want to see you get in the ring with Jake Paul.
Yeah, exactly. I'd be stopped.
I could have been a contender.
You could have been.
Mark, tell us about Dino Dennis.
Yeah, so John, nicknamed Dino Dennis, was getting some pub. He had a career where he was 45-5 with 2 no decisions. And he made some noise in 76. He fought George Foreman in October of this year, so later on. But he lost. They stopped the fight in the 5th round. He's still alive because he did an interview talking about Foreman after his passing, and I talked very fondly of him. But, he was a guy that, they were trying to hype these people. And, Holmes was clearly the only one out of the group of boxers they had that amounted to anything.
But Mark, we have to mention you because you said being compared to people when you're younger is not easy to live up to. They compared Dino Dennis to Rocky Marciano. They said it was England's best heavyweight since Rocky Marciano. Thanks for putting a target on my back.
Yeah, being compared to Rocky, forget too, this is 1976. So Rocky Marciano is not a mythical legend the way he is now. So he's still fresh in people's minds as being one of the all-time
I
greats.
believe he died in a plane. Was it a plane crash like around 70 or 71? So it was really recent before this. And the movie Rocky came out around November of 76. So when this issue came out, when you said Rocky, you would think of Rocky Marciano. Maybe a few people would think of Rocky Graziano.
Yeah,
but
right.
Marciano, so you wouldn't think of the movie or the character Rocky.
That's a good point. Yep. Hey, the Indy 500, there was a 28-page picture layout. A lot of interesting little tidbits. I'm just going to give you one quick one that jumped out at me. Goodyear's race tires, the only ones in the Indy business, are put through more than 200 quality control inspections, 35 lab tests, and a final X-ray before they ever even touch the track, with nearly 80% of them scrapped before they even reach the tire builders. The finished product is thin and completely treadless, designed to dissipate heat fast and grip a dry surface at nearly 4 times the highway speed. And listen to this. The 500 miles at Indianapolis is the equivalent of more than 100,000 miles of ordinary driving when it comes to the tires. So if you have a car and you put 20,000 miles on it for 5 straight years, and that's when you do a tire change, that's what they do at the Indy 500. 500 miles.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Wow.
Who knew?
Damn.
All right, let's get back to baseball. I love this one. A gentler style for a gentleman. Jim Lonborg, the former Red Sox Cy Young Award winner who went 22-9 in Boston's 1967 pennant season, had fallen so far by last fall that he called his wife Rosie to ask how she'd feel about him buying a lumberyard. Yeah, he was getting ready to get out of baseball, Bill, because he got hurt. How did he get hurt?
A devastating skiing accident. I think nowadays it's written in contracts you can't do things like that.
Right.
But back in the day, you're out skiing, and that nearly ruined his career.
I mean, dating myself here, I started following baseball late in 1967, and that was the year he won the Cy Young with the Boston Red Sox. He was their ace, and so I always had this, affinity for Lonborg, and he had a good career. It wasn't just with the Red Sox. I mean, he had some really good years with the Phillies too. And in fact, this issue talks about how he started the season 6-0, and he ended up 18-10 that year. Yeah. But there is some trivia about Lonborg that we'll get to after you guys continue your conversation. I'll tease it. There's some very interesting trivia.
Oh, I can't wait. I got nothing else.
I can't wait. Just do it.
Lonborg. Just go.
Just do it. I am on pins and needles here.
Are you on pins and needles?
Yes.
Okay. So what's everyone's favorite sitcom about a bar in Boston?
Leave It to Beaver.
Yes, you're right. Cheers to you.
Cheers.
So cheers. Okay.
One of my favorite shows.
Right. So Ted Danson's character is a former Boston Red Sox pitcher, and there's a picture of him on the wall. Well, wearing number 16. Well, that's not Ted Danson. That's not Sam Malone. That is Jim Lonborg. So he is the picture they use. He is basically Sam Malone.
Oh, that is great.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I've never seen this episode of Cheers.
Oh,
you've never seen an episode of Cheers?
Not one episode.
I've seen a handful.
You would
not
love
5 minutes, not 1 minute.
My daughter's binging it now.
I think it's the best written sitcom of all time.
Even better than Seinfeld?
Oh, Seinfeld had a lot of, Kramer's stuff is all physical and, but in terms of actual writing, writing on that show is impeccable.
Great actors on there too.
Yeah, and I was explaining to my daughter that Woody Harrelson was initially on the show. There was this veteran actor who played the coach who passed away, about 3 years into the run, and then he gets replaced by Woody Harrelson. And then obviously, when the lead actress leaves, they figure that's the end of the show. But Christy Alley then comes in.
Yeah, a finalist for that Woody Harrelson role.
Yeah,
Joe Fowler.
Really?
Was he really?
Yeah.
Oh, that would have been too funny.
Really?
I might have had an impact on his life.
Yeah, I would say so.
Would you have done our podcast? Why they decided on Harrelson over him?
I'll have to have him tell you guys the story, but he was basically told that the job was his almost, and one more guy they were gonna interview, and Woody walked in and they basically handed him the job on the spot. He just nailed it.
But then, would you have known Joe?
Yeah, I would
have met him,
right? I would have never met him.
And Joe's career, you'd say Joe being in all of Woody Harrelson's career after that. Every movie was the violent one with Rodney Dangerfield.
The Larry Flint one.
Yeah, Larry Flint. Hustle, whatever, hustle, whatever. Yeah. My God.
Yeah.
We should have asked him that when he was on the podcast, man. That's a great story.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow, that's cool stuff. I mean, cool for us because we hear about it. Not cool for Joe who's like, yeah, thanks. I just lost out on 50 billion gazillion dollars. Thanks. Stick it in my ear a little bit more.
Right.
You
Right.
know.
Hey, Bill, my A's are doing something back in the day. They didn't do much. Lose.
Yeah. But they do have a great manager in Chuck Tanner. But Charlie Finley wants to talk to manager Tanner about the losing streak. But he doesn't just have to meet Tanner, that is, doesn't just have to meet with Finley. He's got to meet with the team astrologer too. Because Lori Brady, who was the team astrologer, she was an advisor to the team. So she's got to obviously sit in there and hopefully Mr. Tanner will listen to her to try to break their losing streak.
You know, Chuck Tanner was a long time
Yes.
baseball guy.
World
Could you
Series
imagine
winner.
him sitting there and just being like,
Ugh.
oh my God, you know, you should have started Ron Woofus instead of Vida Blue the other day.
Yes.
Because
Because
his stars were aligned.
that's right. I'm feeling Taurus is really starting to come into its own.
You know what? That's a lot of bull.
Yes,
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Ole, Mark. Ole.
The Dodgers were the
Man.
story of the National League, winning 22 of 26 games and jumping into first place behind sharp pitching from Bert Hooton, Rick Rhoden, and Tommy John. But the biggest stud right now in the National League West is Randy Jones of the Padres, threw a 99-minute five-header against the Reds using just 87 pitches to get to 8-2 on the season. Pete Rose said, I think the next time I face him, I'll go up without a bat. Maybe it'll confuse him and he'll walk me. So Randy Jones was in the midst. We had mentioned it either last week or the week before. He has about a 2-season stretch here where his off-speed stuff is just basically unhittable for almost 2 years running. Hey, Mark, your Tigers stink, but Ron LaFleur is pretty good.
He is. He extends his hitting streak to 24 games. That was the longest by a Tiger since 1935. He's batting like 400 over that stretch. He's leading the league at this point, batting 390, but the Tigers are 0-6 that week.
So it's not really
I
helpful.
want to say the streak got to about 30 games, 31, I want to say when it ended, but
Come down the
He could
stretch
hit.
they
He's a
come.
good little ball player. Bobby
He could
shows
run.
Gordie Howe. Gordie Howe, 48 years old and serving as, this doesn't happen too often anymore, serving as both president of the Houston Aeros and a full-time player, faced Bobby Hull and the Winnipeg Jets in the WHA Championship Finals. And Bill, this was not the first time they met in the finals.
No, it's their first championship series showdown since 1961 that these two dudes played against each other. That was 15 years ago, and they were still playing each other. Dang.
Yeah, the first time the two legends met in 61 with Howe playing on an attack line alongside his son Mark and Hull skating with his dazzling young Swedish line mates Ulf Nilsson and
Favorite
Anders
player.
Hedberg.
Hedberg.
Yeah.
Favorite players growing up.
How come Houston has not gotten a NHL franchise? Because that's a big market.
Yeah, it is. And
You
it's
know,
just, no, they're great. Just great history there, too. The Arrows is a great name.
It is.
Yeah, that's a good question. They're like the fourth biggest market in the country,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
look like they
They
have
gave Utah team.
Someone was pointing out
there.
during the NBA playoffs that, like, for instance, San Antonio is one of the largest populations in the country. You know, like it's in top 10 of cities in LA, but in terms of a media market, it's considered small, even though it has a huge population. Houston is considered, I think 4 or 5 in terms of media markets. So that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe
Can
the
I say a
Dallas
little bit more
Stars
about
are-
this Hull or Gordie Howe at least?
Yeah, go ahead.
Here comes the Houston trainer. His name's Bobby Brown. He talks about sewing guys up. He said, we've sewed about 500 stitches into our guys this season, and usually we don't even use Novocaine. Okay, that alone is enough. But then he tells a story about Gordie Howe. He said Gordie Howe's on the ice. He took a puck behind the ear. Blood flew about 10 feet. He was knocked unconscious. He got up a minute later and kept skating. Just a different era back then.
Yeah.
Now I want you guys next time. I hope you don't get stitches, but if you do, especially if you're a snitch, try to do with no Novocaine.
Oh, I would never take Novocaine.
No, I know you don't, Scott. You walk in and go, yeah, what did Patrick Swayze say in Roadhouse? Pain don't hurt.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. I don't take Novocaine until just about the time for when they're supposed to give me the Novocaine.
Well, it's the worst feeling in the world when they give you a shot in your gums. I mean, you know what? I know it's supposed to numb the pain, but you're still feeling pain anyway.
Yeah. But no, hockey players they're just a different breed of human beings.
They're like, what's it gonna take, Doc, to get me on the ice?
In a minute.
Right. Right.
Not like, hey, give me a week.
Yeah, I need a quick fix, because I'm gonna either go score a goal or I'm gonna go pummel that SOB who just, did this to me.
But that's what you say with the Jack Hughes in the Olympics. He had just got his tooth knocked out.
Oh my gosh.
And then he went and scored the winning goal.
And he's just smiling for all
smiling away. I mean, I chipped my tooth a long time ago. The nerves inside a tooth, yeah, they're not very friendly when wind gets in there.
When asked about retirement rumors, Howe grinned and said he planned to start his own rumor. I'll play next year, but my sons are going to retire. He played for, another 5 or 6 years, right, Bill?
Yeah, went back to the NHL, ended with Hartford.
Oh, what a career.
Yep.
Truly. We say this all the time about guys, but Gordie Howe is worthy of a movie.
No question.
What he did is just, he's playing into his...
he started playing in 1941.
Yeah.
He stopped playing in 1981. And he played and the thing is, there's a big difference from playing and being a player. Already, Gordie Howe was a player. He kept scoring and kept hitting. He wasn't just a guy that came off the bench at the end of, into the game and said, "Oh, there he is. Oh, that's great." No, he was hitting, fighting, and playing the game at a very high level up until the end.
Yep.
For the record,
Mark, UCLA hoops, but maybe not what people are thinking.
No, we're not talking about men's. We're talking about women's. So Ann Myers, who's from UCLA, 21-year-old, and they call her the sister of Milwaukee Bucks forward David Myers, is one of the 12 players named to the U.S. Women's Olympic basketball team. So it's interesting because in '76, like today your players would be from South Carolina, Duke, Connecticut, UCLA just won the championship, that works. But they wouldn't be coming from Delta State, or Cal State Fullerton, no offense, Bill.
Yeah, thanks. You go to
or
hell.
Mercer University or stuff like that. But that's where a lot of these players came from.
Yeah.
But then again, and then Ann a few years later leads UCLA to a title. It wasn't NCAA back then. It was a different organization that did women's basketball.
NAIA or whatever it was?
Something like that.
Yeah.
So that's why when UCLA won this year, they said it was their first NCAA championship, but technically it was their second. But anyway, Ann Myers makes the U.S. Olympic team. And then she would later marry Don Drysdale.
Yeah. And had a very, very good long career in the broadcasting world. Bill, tell me about the guy from the boxer from Argentina.
Oh, Oscar Ringo Bonavena. He was one of those guys. If you're interested in knowing why he was named Ringo, it was because of his Beatles haircut. But when he got out in the ring, he was a big swinger. He'd come out just throwing haymakers. He did go the distance once with Joe Frazier. He ended up fighting Muhammad Ali. But before the fight with Ali, he played a little bit of Ali. He called Ali the Black Kangaroo. And hey, man, he was good fighting Ali, going 15 rounds before Ali put him down. But this story doesn't end well. When Oscar Bonavena was 33 years old, he was shot and killed at the Mustang Ranch brothel near Reno, Nevada.
Wow.
But he's another guy that you look at, like you think of a 30 for 30. That'd be an amazing guy. Mouthy, swung from the heels, was actually very good boxer, just, ended sadly for him at a very young age.
Fought all the big guys.
That's true.
Right? Was 58, 9-1. So, had a good career, didn't duck anyone.
Nope.
Didn't get embarrassed by fighting the big guys either. Yeah.
No, he gave Ali a run at it. He went, I mean, remember, boxing used to be 15 rounds.
Yep.
And there he is out there. He barely missed Ali twice in the 15th round with just a huge haymaker from it thrown from his hip. And finally, when he opened up, Ali was able to put him down. But in the 15th round, this guy was a good boxer that was everything that people would love nowadays in the social media era.
I got a boxing guy to talk about as well. Maybe you've heard of him. Roberto Duran of Panama successfully defended his WBA lightweight title by knocking out Lou Bizarro in the 14th round of a scheduled 15-rounder in Bizarro's hometown of Erie, Pennsylvania. So the Hands of Stone was getting it done 50 years ago. He had quite a career as well. And then I got another one. Remember, Amy Alcott was a guest of ours a couple years ago, birdied the 18th hole for a 4 under par 67 in the final round of the LPGA Classic at Jamesburg, New Jersey, beating Jane Blaylock by 1 stroke. So Amy Alcott just getting started on her Hall of Fame career as well.
2 words for Roberto Duran, no mas.
Well, that's too bad for Duran. That's the one mistake he made in his career, and that's right. That's what everybody remembers.
Yep.
They don't remember that he beat, Leonard the first time.
Faces in the crowd.
Faces in the crowd. Let's talk a little wrestling here. Paul Amin. Mark.
Yep. Yeah, he's 18 years old from Oklahoma City. He's the first 4A wrestler to win the state championship 3 times. He's undefeated in his last 79 matches. His 3-year record is 82-1-1. He's also a running back, and he was chosen the Oklahoma City Prep Player of the Year. So pretty good. And, Paul is considered one of the best high school athletes ever to come out of Oklahoma, okay? So he's all-state, he's both a wrestler and a football player. He ends up getting a football scholarship at LSU, and he plays there. He had 82 consecutive victories at one time in that 82-1-1 record. And they talk about him being face of the crowd. He became a wrestling official in 1984, and he officiated for 20 years. So it was always a big part of his life, the officiating.
Imagine that, Billy. He loses his first match and then never again.
He goes home and says, "How'd you do, son?" "I lost." "That doesn't go in this house." So he ended up, Mark said he won 79 in a row. He went 82-1 and then 1 draw. That's amazing. You lose your first one and never get to come home again and tell dad you lost.
Yeah. He probably goes, "Losing? What's that? What is that?"
Right.
I think he did get beaten, though, when he did get the draw. Beaten by his dad. I don't mean beaten. Just sorry. His dad came home and said, what the hell? What the hell do you mean you had a draw?"
Dad puts him in the figure 4.
Exactly.
Pull up a chair, pour one more. The 19th hole is open for law.
19th hole. 2 weeks ago, the author of the franchise, A History of Sports Illustrated magazine, Michael McCambridge, was on our show, and he said that Julius Erving was the last truly mythic figure in American sports because he became great without many people having seen him play. So here's what Jerome Kopech writes. Pat Putnam and John Papanek, another former guest of ours, did an excellent job in their articles on the ABA championship and the game's most exciting and greatest player, Julius Erving. New York and Denver played a superb series, and although no one got to see them on national TV, you exposed them to everyone through your cover stories. So think of that, the New York and Denver, 2 pretty big cities in our country, and they're playing for a championship, and it's not even on national TV. So that makes Mike McCambridge's point pretty good. Bill, some more crazy guys. A couple of weeks ago, we were talking about guys that were, well, you tell us.
Okay, there was a story about the Rover boys, that the Abernathy's, their dad liked to catch wolves with his bare hand. Well, this is from John Lovejoy. Where's he from? Tulsa. He said, "When I was 3 years of age and my brother was 9 weeks old, we embarked on an adventure similar to that of the Abernathy brothers. With Jeff riding a duck and myself a broom, we rode from Mexico City to Anchorage, Alaska in 3 days. Carrying only traveler's checks, we did the best we could for milk and diapers. Our father had previously become famous by catching great white sharks barehanded. He used a technique very much like the one Jack Abernathy used with wolves, holding the shark's lower jaw down so the shark couldn't bite. He wore only a thin glove on his hand. Come on, that's not barehanded. The thinner, the better. Later, we were offered $1 million if we could cross the continent in 1 week riding wild rats. We were 6 seconds late and were not awarded the money. The only ones waiting for us at the end of our journey were our father and a few interested cats. No kidding. John Lovejoy.
Ugh.
I'm not even sure where to go with that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
I'll just say that much like the guys who were trying to catch the wolves, these guys are a bunch of psychos.
Exactly.
And speaking of, a huge thank you to Steve Psycho Lyons, former big leaguer, longtime broadcaster, and a guy who lived this era firsthand, playing with Carlton Fisk and working alongside Lou Piniella, the two guys on the cover of the May 31st, 1976 issue of Sports Illustrated. Next week, Mark, who's on the cover?
Alvin Adams, who was a really undersung hero for the Phoenix Suns, longtime center for them, really good player. We're going to have him on the show.
Can't wait to talk hoop with Alvin and that classic 1976 NBA Finals between the Suns and the Celtics. That'll be great.
But hey, I want to leave you with something. You know, who are the 3 greatest psychos of all time? Anthony Perkins, 1, Steve Lyons, 2, and of course, me. So,
yeah, you're in a class of your own.
You are. I've never heard you called psycho.
Well, I'm doing this from a rubber room right now. I'm actually in a straitjacket.
Bill, anything to add before we say goodbye?
Yes, when you all get a chance and you hear our show, please check out our social media sites. On Instagram and TikTok, we're at 50 Past Our Prime, and on YouTube, we're Past Our Prime SI. Go to the show. You don't have to listen to the whole thing if you do not want. Just click on it to download it. That's what helps us. The shows are great. The clips we pick are great. Please join us. That is 50 Past Our Prime on TikTok and IG, and on YouTube, it's called Past Our Prime SI.
Also have Facebook and Twitter accounts.
Please mention those, Scott. I'm sorry I didn't mention that.
Yeah, Facebook and Twitter, Insta, you name it, we're there. And if you can leave a review, subscribe, download, do all that fun stuff, it would really help us out. So for Mark, for Bill, I'm Scott. We'll talk to you with Alvin Adams next week on Past Our Prime.